Hello everyone and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. In this episode today, as you can see by the screen, we are going to be doing our predictions for the Dallas home series, otherwise known as week 3 of stage 3 of the CDL 2021 season. I'm really excited for this week. I know I always say I'm really excited because I truly am always really excited to watch the matches and get my predictions down because it's kind of a fun way to see if I'm an idiot or if I'm going to be smart for a week or something. I don't know why there's a 1 on the rocker here. I'll take that down. Maybe that's a hint of where I'm going. Excuse me, but still battling that cold a little bit. I said as I did last video, but please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy this video. We had crazy support on that last video, probably due to the whole Huke drama being a big story in the CDL news. We had great support on that, so I really appreciate that. We had like tons of new subscribers, so if you're new to the channel, welcome. In these videos, I just do my predictions for the upcoming matches coming up in the next weekend. This is an exciting one, as I said, because, well, there's a lot of teams that are close in the groups. I mean, I believe Toronto has the 1 seed locked up in their side, and I believe LA Thieves has a winner's bracket spot locked up. But other than that, it's like a toss-up in a lot of groups. There's a lot of teams that could shift around with being top 2 in their group or maybe even falling into the loser's side of things. There's a lot of teams that can be shaken up, and there's a lot of good matchups. I mean, we got Optic still hasn't played the 2 of the best teams in their group in Faze and Subliners. We've even got like Dallas playing Florida, which is an interesting one. We even got Thieves and Subliners, which is another great match. Empire Rocker, just a load of great matches this week. So without further ado, we're just going to get right into it and kind of go over our predictions. That's about all that's going to be in this video since we talked about a lot of the news regarding like Huke, Decimate in the last video. So if you haven't seen that, on these tight weeks, they get uploaded back-to-back days, so you might not be able to catch that. So if you do want to hear my thoughts on those roster changes as well as the matches last weekend, go check out the last video. But without further ado, we will get right into the predictions for this coming weekend. In the first match, we've got the Minnesota Rocker versus LAG. This is probably more interesting than it would have been just a couple weeks ago because LAG has shown a great deal of improvement. They may not be winning matches like every time, but I mean, they would have never taken Dallas to a Game 5 just a few weeks ago. The team is more structured now with Chino on it, and everybody playing at a pace that kind of matches each other rather than Vivid, kind of flying around and having everybody else play slow. The team is matching each other's pace very well now. Minnesota is a team that, once again, they've shown flashes of potential that they could maybe make a run for being the best team or a top 2, top 3 team. And then they've also had matches where it's just like, man, this is the team we're expecting to be like a top 3 team. Like, yeah, they're more like 6 or 7. And I'm a little bit lower on them than some people have been. Like, I feel like going into any match, they can certainly win it. There's a good chance that they win any match they're going into, but I just don't. I don't know. I don't have confidence in them against like the Faze, the Optic, Thieves, Subliners, the top teams, Toronto. I don't have faith in them. But I do think that they are going to beat the Gorillas. But I think it's going to be a close match. I think I'm going to go 3-2 for the side of Minnesota. And usually, I mean, I would be probably going 3-0. And when I was looking at this, this slate of matches we have for this week, I honestly don't know if I'm going to be able to pick a 3-0 in almost any match because they're just such evenly matched teams playing this week. And usually the Gorillas would be the team I pick to get 3-0'd. But they're playing 2 more middle teams, not top teams. So I feel like they're going to be able to win a map at least with the way they've been playing. But in this first series, I'm going 3-2. And that's simply because Minnesota hasn't impressed me a whole lot lately. And LAG has been very good in search. I think there's a way that LAG takes the map to search and then finds a way to take either one of the hard points or the control and force a Game 5. And then Minnesota will clutch up just because they are the better team. But I'm mostly picking 3-2 because I think it's going to be a close series overall. Then the second match, we get right into the tough ones to predict. It's Optic and Subliners, 2 teams that I have pretty much almost deadlocked in the power rankings in my last video. If you go check that out, I did my power rankings like I do in every reaction video. I had Toronto 1, Phase 2, pretty much like everybody else. And then I ended up putting Thieves 3 for now, especially with the Huke acquisition. And then I had Optic 4 and Subliners 5. They're pretty much deadlocked in the power rankings as it goes. The only concern for me is Optic has been really struggling in respawns lately, and Subliners just laid a dud against the Ravens, who's a team that they should beat 10 out of 10 times because they're simply better than London. They're supposed to be a top 4, top 3 team, and London is supposed to be maybe 10, 11, 12 in the league, and New York couldn't close them out. They lost in 5 games, so that's a bit concerning. On the other side for Optic, like I said, their respawn has been struggling, but their search has been very great lately, which is kind of flipping the script on what we normally see from Optic usually. We have a ton of confidence in their respawn. They're one of the best respawn teams. They're almost unbeatable usually. And then it's always their search and destroy. That's their downfall, and we can't rely on them in search, and that's why we can never end up relying on them a lot to win the big matches or win a tournament or something, is because they seem to struggle in search. But lately, they're one of the best search teams in the league over the last few weeks and over this stage, and they're one of the worst respawn teams. I think they're going to work very heavily on respawn. I think they probably worked on it heavily in the last week, and that's why I'm going with Optic in this match. But I think it's going to be another 3-2, and I certainly can see New York winning this. The only reason I go with Optic is because, I mean, Optic seems to play up for these matches that they know are big matches, and they, with that loss to Thieves, if they would have beat Thieves, they would have been 3-0, and they would have been sitting good. They would have been pretty much guaranteed winners bracket in the next major. But now that they lost to LA Thieves, they fall to 2-1. They know that they have subliners in Faze. If they lose this match to subliners, they're 2-2. They're very much in danger of going down as a 2-3 record, and in all likelihood being in the losers bracket side of things. Which is very scary for them, obviously. They're still a team that could make a losers bracket run, but, I mean, nobody wants to start in losers when you can start in winners. I'm really predicting a hot week from Optic this week. I don't know. I just feel like with the last major, they struggled heavily, and they know it's time for them to turn around. It's getting later in the year. I'm going to predict that Optic is, I don't know, maybe they're going to have a 2-0 week, possibly. I think they're going to win one of these matches. The thing is, I don't know if it's going to be the subliners match or the Faze match or both. I don't think there's a way that they lose two, but they certainly could because they're playing two great teams. But I'm going to go 3-2 simply because of the fact that New York still seems to be figuring things out, and the fact that they lost to London, that just makes me think Optic has a slight edge. Going into Friday then, we start out with matches that maybe don't look as good on paper as some of the matches we see later in the week, but they're intriguing because we're looking at Dallas and Florida, who both have relatively new rosters. And then Surge in Atlanta, who Atlanta's on a little bit of a slide, and Surge is playing with a new roster, so it's kind of exciting to see what will happen with that. But in the first match, it's Faze Surge. I think I have to go Faze here. I know there's a honeymoon period here, possibly for Surge, and I do think they're going to get slightly better with Decimate because Looney has struggled this year. But I don't know that Decimate's the superstar they need to get over the hump and beat teams like Faze consistently. So that's why I'm going 3-1. I can't go 3-2 on everything. But like I said, I see one match later in the week that I'm going to have to pick my 3-0 because there's probably going to be at least 2 or 3 3-0s this week because it always happens. But I don't think this is going to be one of them. I do think there's a chance, obviously, that Faze wins at 3-0. But I think Surge with their new roster, they're not going to want to get 3-0. They're going to come out fighting. I think there's maybe a small chance that Surge could win this entire series. And that solely comes from the fact that they have a new roster and Faze is struggling. I mean, typically I would definitely say Surge is about 0 chance to win this if this was 3 weeks ago when Surge was looking a little bit up, but Faze was dominant. But I'm going Faze 3-1 in this one. Then in the next match, we've got Dallas Empire versus Florida. Another intriguing one because, I mean, this one probably isn't going 5 games because Florida is literally allergic to Game 5s. They don't go to them. They either win every series 3-1 or 3-0, or they lose every series 3-1 or 3-0. They don't go to Game 5s. So I don't think I'm going to be able to pick a Game 5 here. And unfortunately for Florida, I also don't think they're going to win the series. So I think it's going to be a 3-1. There's a world where Florida wins this. I mean, they're so streaky, so hot and cold, and Dallas is certainly at one of the weaker points we've ever seen Dallas at right now. And that's kind of funny to say because they really don't look that bad. But I mean, we're comparing their form to early this year when they were finishing second in the first major and beating pretty much everybody but Faze, or to last year towards the end of the year when they were unbeatable and they won champs. So, I mean, if you're comparing it to the world champion team and then the team earlier this year that was only losing to Faze, it's kind of hard to say that they're not worse because they currently are playing a little worse. But Fellow looked pretty darn good in that last series. He clutched up for them in that map 5 versus, I believe it was LAG, if I'm thinking of the right series. Yeah, he clutched up in that map 5, went like 12-5. And that's what Fellow does. He's a clutch player. He's been in the league plenty. He's not going to be a guy just because he's a new player on the team. He's not a new player in the league. He's not going to get nervous in the big moments, which is nice to know that you can rely on a newer player on your team in those clutch moments. So I think Dallas is going to close this one out 3-1. For the side of Florida, I just think they need a change. I don't think Havoc is the answer. I think he's a decent filler for time, but it's getting down to the point where Florida is not even remotely close to guaranteeing themselves a playoff spot. They're not even in the 8th spot right now. I believe LAG is still ahead of them for that. So Florida needs to pick it up, and it's not time to be safe and try to just sneak out an 8th seed. It's time to kind of go for the home run and hope that you can take over that 8th seed, maybe even jump to the 7 or something. So Florida's going to lose this one 3-1, but it's time for a change for them, I believe. Then going into Saturday, this is the one I was talking about that could be a potential 3-0. To be honest with you, I do think that Paris is going to be able to take a map or two, but in terms of points for predictions, you've always got to pick a 3-0. At least, I mean, there's probably going to be, every weekend there's multiple 3-0s, but I don't know where else to go besides this is the one obvious pick for a potential 3-0. I do think there's a world where Paris pulls off an upset, simply because I'm not saying Toronto will, but Toronto, I'm pretty confident. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty confident that they have the number 1 seed locked up. It would make sense because I think it usually goes to their record head-to-head for a tiebreaker, and Toronto has beat everybody, obviously, in their group so far but Paris. And Paris isn't 3-1, so they couldn't tie at 4-1. So I believe Toronto has the number 1 seed in their group locked up, meaning they have that first-round bye into the winter semis. That's the only reason I can see Paris maybe forcing a Game 5 or winning the series is because maybe Toronto lets their foot off the gas a little bit. Knowing that they have the thing locked up, they may do like a trial period here where they try out a couple new maps that they don't usually work in their map pool to see how they work, because technically this series really means nothing to them other than the fact that they can get those 10 CDL points, which might matter because, I mean, I think they're either 5 ahead or 5 behind Optic right now. I'm pretty sure Toronto's at like 165 and Optic's at like 160, or the other way around, like they're tight. So those 10 points may matter right now, especially when they're trying to climb, because, I mean, why wouldn't you want the number 1 seed going into champs? I believe you get the further bye then. Especially with this year, with the top 7 teams being so clearly ahead of the rest of the pack, you really want to get that 1 seed so you can play the 8 team who's a little further behind. But yeah, like I said, this is where I could see Toronto possibly getting their first loss of the stage, because they might be trying out new maps to try to widen their map pool. They might not have their full focus since they have the 1 seed locked up. And Paris is really fighting hard. I think there's probably a way that they could get in a million-way tie and be 2-3, and maybe get that last spot in winner's bracket from their group. There's probably a way that could happen. So Paris might come out fighting, but I'm going to pick 3-0 here because Toronto is clearly the better team, the best team in the league right now. So this is where I'm going to hope that 3-0 happens. Then moving on to the second match on Saturday, it's actually the Game Feel marquee match. I'm pretty sure that they probably had the Florida LAG one as the marquee match, and then they realized, wait, that match is kind of trash. And the middle match here is LA Thieves, who are already a good team, but now they added Huke versus Subliners with Hydra, and just a great match overall. And what a brutal week for Subliners, to be honest. They're a great team. I have them 5 in my power rankings, but unfortunately for them, they're playing the team that I have 4 and the team that I have 3. Subliners can certainly get out of this week 2-0. There is no reason that they can't beat Optic, and there's no reason that they can't beat Thieves. They could beat them both. Like I said, Optic, I think I might pick Optic to go 2-0. Spoiler for later in the video. I just have a feeling that the respawn is going to bounce back and Faze is on a skid and stuff. But Optic could also go 0-2 this week. That wouldn't be shocking at all. You've got a team like Empire, who we think is another top team. They could beat Florida, and then they could beat Minnesota, or I could see them losing to both and going 0-2. Same thing here with Subliners. I could see a world where they beat LA Thieves and Optic, because they're certainly capable of doing it, but I also see a world where they get beat by both. And I think that's what happens here. I think it goes to a 5-game series, and I think that Thieves take it 3-2 over Subliners. Unfortunate week for them based on my pick'ems. Once again, Subliners are probably going to win one of these matchups. I doubt that they go and have an 0-2 week with their new roster. The thing is, I just don't see which one they're going to win. I don't have confidence in picking them, so I'm picking against them. I will say in this matchup, I think that, I don't know, the way that things work out for these teams, I believe that LA Thieves, even without TJ anymore, are still going to be the better search team between the two teams, and probably the better control team. So the way I kind of see the series breaking down, I think that the first hardpoint is kind of a toss-up, as well as the first search and destroy. I think those are both kind of toss-ups, but I think they'll probably be split in whatever way, so we'll go to the control 1-1. And then I'm pretty confident that LA Thieves is going to win the control. I mean, Subliners are a good control team, but LA Thieves is arguably the best control team. So I think they'll probably take that to take a 2-1 series lead. Subliners will come out with the fire. They're always a team that is able to come back and force game 5s constantly, get reverse sweeps and stuff of that nature. So I believe Subliners will probably win that map 4, force a map 5, and then Thieves just have the ice. They're probably the overall better search team. But it'd be a great map 5 because I don't think Subliners are a great search team, but they do have the ice. They're always able to like come up clutch in those clutch situations. So I think that would be a good map 5 if we had Thieves Subliners, but I'm going Thieves 3-2. Once again, if you're a Subliners fan, I'm sorry. Both of their matchups this week are literal toss-ups to me because they're such even matchups. They could go 2-0. They could go 1-1. They could go 0-2. I could see any result happening. This isn't like me saying like subliners suck. I know they're going to go 0-2. No, they could easily go 2-0. This week, once again, it's just a toss-up week. You're basically looking at a bunch of 5-game series. I mean, there could all be 3-0s, but when I say 5-game series, I basically mean you're looking at a bunch of close toss-up series that could go either way. And if your coin flip is lucky this week, you're going to get them because, I mean, a good majority of the matches this week are kind of coin flips with how evenly matched the teams are. Then the last match, usually the marquee match, but not this week, is Mutineers, Gorillas. This is an interesting one for me because I would really like to pick Gorillas here. I think there's a good chance that they win this matchup. I actually think Gorillas have a somewhat small chance to win both matchups. I don't think it's completely out of the question that they could beat Minnesota early in the week, and I don't think it's out of the question they could beat Florida here. However, I believe Florida would be 2-3 or 3-2 for sure if they lose and then win. I can't remember what their wins and losses were looking like the first week. I know they won at least one match and lost at least one match. So I don't know if they're 1-2 coming into this week or 2-1. I can't remember. But nonetheless, I know both these teams with a win are looking at least 2 wins and are really fighting for that last spot in the winners bracket from their group. I think I'm going to go with Florida in this one in a 3-2 fashion once again. And the reason I'm going Florida is just because overall I think Big Wake and Skies are disappointing in their performance last week. And Neptune, I think Havoc's going to be knowing at this point, like this week he's fighting for his job. He needs to go off. I think they'll come together as a team. I think they'll get this win. I do think LAG is going to keep it close. And like I said, I thought about picking them, so I do think there's a very legitimate chance that LAG is able to take this. But I'm going to go with Florida 3-2 simply for the fact that I think the talent level on Florida is higher and they're finally going to win it. I know I said they never go to Game 5s and they never do, but maybe they will here. I mean, it's just tough to pick. These are both teams that are so tough to pick because Florida, starting the year, you picked them a bunch because they were supposed to be so good and they let you down. And LAG just lets you down every time they pick, or you pick them because every time they seem to be on the upswing, they just fall off the face of the earth. So these are both teams that I'm like cringing trying to pick because they both always just screw me over so much in pick'ems. But I'm just going to go Florida 3-2 because it's kind of a toss-up match for me. Then moving into Sunday, we've got Surge, Ravens. This is another weird one because typically the Ravens have not looked good this year. But last week they beat New York in 5 games, and they forced a 5-game series versus Faze and could have very easily won it. So London's been looking better lately. And at the same time, we've got Surge, who were looking better and then kind of plateaued, but now have a new roster, so they're a little bit of a question mark. I think I'm going to go Surge, and I can't always pick 3-2, so I'm picking a 3-1. But once again, this is another freaking toss-up series for me. Like, London, if they wouldn't have looked so good last week, it wouldn't be a toss-up. I think Surge, you guys know I kind of have had a lot of faith in Surge. They're one of my favorite teams to watch, so that could admittedly be some kind of like me wishing Surge would get a little better and wanting to pick them because they're kind of one of my favorite teams to watch when they had Looney and Gunless and all them. I really like that team. Just watching them was kind of fun to watch how structured they were. But all the London fans in here, this is not me just like picking against London because I think they suck. I legitimately have no idea in this match. This is just another toss-up one. Surge, new look roster, London, kind of a question mark. They've been so bad all year, but last week they kind of looked good, so it's a question mark. I need to see more consistency out of London before I'm willing to pick them because, I mean, basically all year they've been losing every match they're a part of, so I need to see more consistency besides just the one win versus New York and the tough series versus Atlanta before I'm willing to pick them. So for that reason, I'm just going to go with the Surge 3-1. And then probably the match that everybody's looking forward to the most this week because it's Optic, obviously the biggest fan base, and Faze, arguably the best team, one of the best teams. And once again, it's Faze, so another huge brand. The classic Optic Faze rivalry that's been around for years and years and years. This one is another tough one. I picked Faze to beat Surge. Especially if Faze beats Surge early in the week and Optic beats New York earlier in the week. That would put them both at 3-1. You could also have the potential of LA Thieves losing to Subliners, which would put them at 3-2. So let's say Thieves lose to Subliners and Optic beats Subliners. That would put Subliners at 3-2, I believe. Yeah, because they'd have losses to... They beat Faze... and they'd have losses to London and Optic then, and then they would have beaten Surge. They'd be 3-2 if they lost Optic and beat Thieves. So then Subliners could be 3-2. Thieves would then be 3-2. and Faze and Optic would come into this matchup at both 3-1. So based on the way tiebreakers work, maybe a loss could knock them out of winner's bracket at 3-2 for one of them. And then a win, if everybody else was 3-2 coming into it, would put them as the number 1 team. So this matchup, I kind of hope that's the way it goes. I kind of hope Optic beats Subliners and then Subliners beats Thieves, because then it'd be 3-2, 3-2, 3-1, 3-1. We'd have Faze versus Optic to see who gets 1 seed, and then we'd have 3-3-2 teams, and then one of them would be in loser's bracket. That would be nuts. I kind of hope that's the way this goes now. I kind of hope I change my pick, or my pick goes wrong for the Thieves Subliners match now. But I think the pressure is going to be high. It seems like Optic gets up for the pressure. And they always lose the matches where there's not a lot of pressure because they don't like get hyped for it. They're players that have been around forever, and I feel like they kind of need those big matches in order for them to really like get their adrenaline pumping and going. And I also think Faze has a point to prove here because Faze wants to prove that they're still dominant. So it's kind of tough to pick this one, but I'm going to go with a 5-game series, and I'm going to go with Optic 3-2. And once again, like I said, the reason I'm going Optic is because I think that they're going to work on their respawns very hard this week. I think they kind of trolled a little bit in that series with the LA Thieves. I mean, Envoy was using a Milano for like a full map, and Dashy was using the FFAR, and like they weren't necessarily like bad with them, but like Envoy was going like a 0.9. He was dropping like a 0.9 with it, and Dashy was dropping like a 0.9. He was like even. I feel like they weren't like they were trying something new, which I appreciate. I appreciate trying to change the meta. I love the fact they were trying to try something new, but like it just felt like in a way they just weren't. I don't know, like it didn't seem like it was like better. Like a Krigan 74U probably seemed like it would have been better. I think they're just overall better guns. So it seemed like in a way Optic was almost trolling a little bit. I think Faze is on a skid. I think their downfall is finally occurring. I mean, when Faze was at their peak, we saw in that early series, way early back in like stage 1, Optic should have beat them 3-1 when they were at their peak. So just, I don't know, for that reason, I just feel like we're going to have to say that Optic's going to win this 3-2. Once again, another toss-up matchup. If you're a Faze fan, I'm definitely not saying Faze is going to lose this. If you're an Optic fan, don't put too much faith in my words. I don't know. I seem to pick Optic a lot, but that's just because I don't see ways that Scump and formal teams ever get, like, I don't know. I just grew up watching them dominate all the teams I liked and like all the players I liked, and they won everything. So it's hard to just ever like think they're going to lose big time. But this is certainly a series they lose, but I'm just going 3-2 because I think it's a toss-up and I've got to pick someone. But I really hope it ends up being that storyline where everybody's 3-2 coming in and these two are 3-1. So it can be a match for the winner's bracket because that would make it really intense. Then the final match here of the weekend before the major comes around is Dallas Empire versus Minnesota Rocker. This is another interesting one, obviously a good matchup because once again, Empire Rocker, two of the better teams in the league, two teams that we believe have a chance to maybe be the champions by the end of the year or win a major or something because they're two good teams. Minnesota's had Dallas's number this year ever since the beginning of the year when Dallas looked almost unbeatable. And even when Minnesota had their old roster with Priesthood, they were able to take them out in a 5-game series. I believe it ended on like Garrison Search, which obviously isn't even in the rotation anymore. But Minnesota's had Dallas's number all year. Can't pick all the 3-2s like I said, so we're going 3-1 again, and we're going 3-1 with Minnesota. Once again, the reason is simply because Dallas, I don't have a ton of faith in them right now. I believe that they're going to be able to beat up on all the little guys, all the worst teams. I think Dallas is going to still beat because I think they're very good. But I think it's going to take them until maybe the mid or end of stage for like regular season to finally find their stride with Fellow and be able to start beating top teams. And that could change. Maybe it could happen at the major if they end up playing a ton of matches at the major where they start rolling there. All of a sudden they're on a 2-win streak, 3-win streak. Or they win their first match, get dropped to losers, go on like a 3-game win streak and losers. That could maybe finally get their team going with Fellow. But I do believe that overall, Dallas Empire are probably going to struggle to beat the other top teams for now, and Minnesota has had their number. So with that combination, I'm going Minnesota 3-1. But there you have it. There's my predictions. I'm going with Minnesota, Optic, Atlanta, Dallas, Toronto, Thieves, Florida, Surge, Optic again, and Rocker again. That's pretty much all I wanted to do for this video. We covered like all the roster news and stuff in the last one, so go check that out if you haven't. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I love doing these prediction videos, as you know. Thank you guys for the crazy support in the last video. I think the Huke news really helped it get out there, but there's a ton of new viewers, ton of new likes, new commenters, new subscribers, stuff like that. So I really appreciate the love. I love y'all. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope you enjoy watching the matches this weekend. And and watching the major coming up, which is probably not going to be on LAN, but I heard we're going to have LAN for Stage 4 and on, maybe from Hecz. So thank you guys for watching once again. Leave a comment down below on your thoughts for the weekend. Share the video with somebody who likes Call of Duty, likes the CDL, and I will see you in the next one, which will probably be following the weekend. It'll be reaction. So thanks for watching. Have a great day, everyone.